Talk to me, talk to me, talk to me. Your magical kiss, take me just so far. Talk to me, talk to me, talk to me. Don't leave me like this, dangling from a star. You set me all aflame and it's so pleasing. It sure would be a shame if you were only teasing. So my love, before I go, turn the lights way down low and talk to me. Talk to me, talk to me. Well, another night, another day. I don't know what it is, but it's 6 o'clock and it's the Don McKeag Show. Kenny, what number is this? I meant to ask you. Do you happen to remember how many shows have we done? Chicken legs. Number 11 already? Wow. Well, anyway, welcome to the Don McKeag Show, ladies and gentlemen. The one fastest hour on TV now. Anyway, those that are new, welcome. It is a call-in show. You will see the number on our screen that will allow you to participate. I'd love to have you participate, whether you're for or against the topic or the speaker, as long as we keep our camaraderie, shall we say, and no insulting. I do a radio show every Saturday on Cape Cod's 95.1 WXTK, 2 hours of talk and viewpoints, and I hope information. In both shows, I continue to read before every show because it means so much to me, and I think to the country, a quote by Father, the Reverend Martin Luther, not Martin Luther King, Martin Luther, who lived from 1483 to 1546. This quote, this statement was made by him during the Reformation when he was jeopardizing his entire, not only career, but his life by taking on the one and only Christian representative to speak of, and that was the Catholic Church, because of the corruption it had gone through. He was a practicing, a loving, and very dedicated priest himself. So this was not a rogue. This was a person who could no longer tolerate, along with other fellow priests and nuns. And of course, the ultimate result was the Protestant Reformation. But that's not what this is really about. I just mentioned how long ago that was. Almost 500 years ago. In 12 years, it'd be 500 years ago. Hard to believe, isn't it? But in this quote, he said, cowardice asked the question, is it safe? Expediency asked the question, is it politic? Vanity asked the question, is it popular? But conscience asked the question, is it right? And there comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe nor politic nor popular. But he or she must take it because it is right. His or her conscience, our conscience, tells him it is right. We must get back to that core that made this country great. We are all sinners. We are all subject to the 7 deadly sins: sloth and greed, lust, all of those things. We must be individually and collectively aware of our weaknesses and try very hard to bring this country back for our next generations. For me, it's not going to matter. That being said, I have a lot of other things, but I don't like to have heavy subjects all the time, and I also don't like to talk all the time about things that, though I know they're true, or at least mostly true, if not factual, I try to get factual, but I can't really do anything about them. It's very frustrating for all of us. And I know some people listen to me and have for years on the radio because I whet their appetite for others who are just disillusioned, disappointed, dismayed, and just, feeling helpless to change things. But there are things that we can change. And I have a guest with me today who I can speak, as I try to speak on every subject, from personal experience. And we're going to talk about health. And we're going to talk about what really matters today for each and every one of us. You think things are going bad, or you think things are going good. The one thing that will affect every one of us, male, female, young, old, black, white, gay, straight, doesn't matter, is your health. And some things we can't do much about our health, but we can try to maintain this cathedral that the good Lord gives each of us, this body, the good, the bad, the ugly. Some are born physically handicapped, mentally handicapped. There's only so much they can do. But for most people, a huge majority, we can maintain some kind of sensible treatment of our bodies to achieve good health and to achieve longevity. It isn't just the medical profession that straightens out our health. We are in charge of our health. Most of us have been brought up with the knowledge that you are what you eat. And most of us know as we go along life's path how we feel when we eat or drink something that isn't too good for us. So that being said, we will go along into my guest. But first, I just wanted to I can't stay totally away from the politic of this country. And that is that this is all from the United Nations International Health Organization. I say these things because I'm talking to you people who are voting now, have in the past, and hopefully will vote with more knowledge and concern for the people who are representing us. If you're not happy with them, we should vote them out, get them out. I don't care what party they are, I don't care what color or what sex they are or anything. They should not, if they're not representing what has been proven to be successful over the ages, then we've got to do something about it. Now, forget whether you like Obama, forget whether you're a Democrat. You've heard my spiel about that. These are facts from the United Nations International Health Organization. Percentage of men and women who survived a cancer 5 years after diagnosis. United States, 65%. England, 46%. Canada, 42%. Percentage of patients diagnosed with diabetes who received treatment within 6 months. United States, 93%. England, 15%. Canada, 43%. Percentage of seniors needing hip replacement who received it within 6 months. United States, 90%. England, 15%. Canada, 43%. Percentage referred to a medical specialist percentage referred to a medical percentage who sees one within 1 month. United States, 77%. England, 40%. Canada, 43%. Number of MRI scanners, a prime diagnostic tool today, per million people. United States, 71. England, 14. Canada, 18. Percentage of seniors, 65 plus. I know it's hard to believe I fall into that category again, but I do. With low income, who say they are in excellent health. Remember, let me say that. Percentage of seniors 65 or older with low income who say they're in excellent health. United States, 12%. Pretty low. But England, 2%. Canada, 6%. And now the last statistic. National health insurance, United States, no. England, yes. Canada, yes. This again from the United Nations Statistical Health Database. Now, that being said, we have been told that socialized medicine is better for us. It remains to be seen, but we're hearing all sorts of things like lost coverage. The other day we were talking 323,000 people were told by the IRS, no less, that they were making more money than they should be for receiving the services that they receive. This is not intended to frighten you. This is just intended to inform you. You do with it what you want. But it is not, I believe, a good situation. Now, that's enough. I want to now introduce a man who has been so helpful to me, and I found him actually by accident through an ad he was running. His name is Paul Gerst. And Paul is from St. Paul, Minnesota. He's been here a little over 3 years. And he is basically what I'm going to talk about, and he's going to do most of the talking, I hope. And that is about what I started the show out with. How do we maintain good health? A lot of it's the luck of the draw, genetics and all this, but you can, and Paul and others like him provide ways in which the body is helped through other treatments, supplemental treatments. Things such as chiropractic, obviously, and Chinese medicine, the study of ages, thousands of years. But that's enough. I'm just going to let Paul have the floor. And again, we have our, Kenny is our number up there, so you can call Paul if you have a question. We'll give him a few minutes to our number here is anyway 508-830-3971. Mr. Paul Gerst.
Thanks for having me on, Don.
I'm glad you didn't fall asleep during that.
I actually did.
I actually did. All right, Paul. Well, now you know we're good friends, and Paul comes and actually we had a treatment today. I have acid reflux, but this is just an aside to show you what his qualifications are. But anyway, let's give the audience a little. First of all, the name of your
name of the business? I have a business here called New England Natural Health Services. I'm a licensed acupuncturist, and I've been a practicing acupuncturist for, it'll be 18 years in January. I come from Western medical family, but I gravitated towards Eastern medicine when I decided I was interested in helping people with chronic health issues. And after examining the path that I might take with Western medicine, I was a bit disillusioned, to use your word from before, and disappointed in what I'd seen from Western medicine. Not to say that it doesn't have its place. Of course, I mean, if I wanted to work in emergency medicine, if I wanted to, if I wanted to look into genetic medicine or that kind of emergency medicine, that's where you go. But for chronic health issues, I recognize that Chinese medicine was far superior, and I chose to walk that path. And then since graduating and since being in practice, I've become more eclectic, and I've added more modern things to my practice. And so in a sense, I practice similar to that of a naturopath, but of course under the scope of my license. So I use acupuncture I'm like the electrician of the body, and I use things to help your body communicate and function better. And so a big point of the kind of medicine that I practice is identifying the root of why somebody has their particular imbalance, and I try to help them correct that, because you do not have your disease or your health issue because of a lack of pharmaceuticals, chiropractic adjustments, acupuncture needles, that kind of thing. We look at behaviors and we try to correct them. Now, of course, we use those things, whether it's chiropractic adjustments or pharmaceuticals or acupuncture needles, to steer or guide. But if you're not willing to make the changes that got you to where you are, how do you expect to get well? And that's what I try to do, is educate my patients to be the best they can be.
Well, let me just tell you, because this is why I brought Paul on, and I'm very happy to have him here, and I know you listeners will benefit, even if you never use Paul. This is not, again, so much I'd like to help him. I believe in him. I always have. And just to show you what he has done for me. Now, at my age, I'm over 70, and I'm active, and I've always had pretty good health, and I've used chiropractors, and I've had acupuncture, but he, for instance, today, he uses oils, where you're breathing in the oils, where he hits key points because of his knowledge through ancient Chinese medicine. The knowledge of how different receptors we have in our body. And correct me if I say anything wrong, Paul, because I'm not certainly I'm just a patient. But it's very interesting for any of you. And it's been known that, well-intended, but we are a drug-oriented culture too, where the drugs so often are treating the symptoms. They alleviate the symptom, but they do not identify the real source. Paul, on the other hand, in my experience, has been able to find the source. I just mentioned acid reflux, but also I had a knee operation. I had a knee replacement. Prior to it, he was able to ease the pain through his treatments. It is certainly worth, if you have not been happy, and it's not about your doctor or but if you haven't seen results, I mean, I'm a restaurant man. Now, if somebody comes to my restaurant, or anybody's restaurant, and they're not happy with their meal, they might come back again. But if they're not happy the second time, most people would go to a new restaurant, or try something else. In other words, if we eat something, today all this gluten-free material has come about because people have recognized that they have these allergies to certain substances, thanks to science. And it makes a difference. And Paul and his particular profession can make a difference. Now, Paul, what did you really, other than you mentioned that when you went into Western medicine, you were a little disillusioned, but how do you focus in your profession? You're able to do all three, chiropractic and acupuncture, as well as, I call it Chinese medicine, but I mean herbals and things like that. Now, how they seem, they're interlocking, yes, but do you take courses? What do you have to do to be licensed in each and every, I gather?
How do I get my license?
Yes.
I want to correct you, by the way, because I'm not, just to be truthful to everybody, I'm not a chiropractor.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I take that back.
There is some overlap in the professions, but I'm not manipulating. So just to make sure that
Thank you, because I said to do that.
I don't want to step on anybody's toes out there. So
No.
Unless that's part of the acupuncture treatment.
Yeah,
But so to get a license, I have my undergrad degree in counseling, and I happened to go to school where I designed my degree to go to acupuncture school. After I get my 4-year degree, then you're accepted to an acupuncture school, and I have another 4 years of school to learn Chinese medicine. This is just to give you an example. A doctor that says he can do acupuncture learned it in 8 days. So you go to somebody who learned it in 8 days, or you go to somebody who learned it in 4 years. And so there are some political issues around this, and not to jump into those. But my point is I have If you're a licensed acupuncturist, you went to school for 4 years, you passed a board certification through our national organization, and then you have to, each state is a little bit different. The states haven't been very uniform about that, but the LAC designation that you see after my name is licensed acupuncturist, and that's what that's about.
Now, let me also, as I'm just going to give you again my personal experience. When I first went to Paul, I can't even remember the total original beginnings. I guess I was fatigued and things were bothering me. And believe me, I'm a hard sell. I'm a thick Irishman, and I'm not one of these people that goes and goes voodoo, voodoo medicine and this. But this is why another reason I want to bring him in and have you hear my personal discussion as well as see Paul and hear him. But he took me, I remember, he took me down to the supermarket. And then we went to a package store, I believe, right? Mm-hmm. And at first you're saying, what is this all about? But let me show you what, I've got a bad shoulder, so we had to do it. How did we do this?
Basically, I was doing muscle testing. It's called applied kinesiology, which is the fancy name for it, but it's muscle testing. To be forthright, I can write a paper for it and against it, and there's good muscle testers and there's horrible ones, but it's inexpensive, it's free, and so it's a way I can get some quick answers, and I've learned to take that muscle testing further. Now, very simply, again, some people will read far too much into it, but I was just trying to find what your nervous system was not happy with. Right. No, everything in life has an energetic signature. People do. You can tell me you haven't walked by somebody who just gives you the heebie-jeebies, right? You don't even have to look that person in the eye. Their energy just might not resonate with you. Yeah. And there's foods that do that. There's so many things. People think how you feel in a positive sense. So some people say, "Oh, I have to be near the ocean. I have to be when I go in the mountains or I'm in the woods, I feel so peaceful." Right? Yeah. And so everything has an energetic signature. Everything. It's just like the sound of your voice. It's melodic to the people that love listening to you. Yeah. These kinds of things. Everything has a signature. So all I was trying to do is put things in and just ask if your body was okay with them.
Well, listen to here's what I'll just try to show you. So I would, for instance, I do remember there was mushrooms, there was grapefruit, and Paul would say, hold, now I'm in pretty good shape. And this, again, my bad arm, we can't do it with, but he would hold this.
What you're doing is you're putting out a strong arm, and I'm putting very slow pressure, about 3 to 5 pounds of pressure, seeing if he can meet that.
To see if I can meet it.
And and you can use this in a bunch of different ways. You can experiment with it at home. You have to do it you have to, it takes a good deal of practice. But if you put your arm up like this, and I push this down, I'm going to move your water so we don't have an accident here. No, I'm just getting a baseline here.
Right.
So you resist that. Very strong.
Right.
I'm isolating this muscle right here. All right, real strong again. What I'm going to have you do is uncross your legs, put them flat on the ground. Real strong again. Say my name is Don and hold your arm strong.
Don.
Say my name is Don.
Don.
Say my name is Don.
My name is Don.
Okay, now say my name is Guido.
My name is Guido.
Okay, and you can
I'm not faking
and you can see that there's now some of the criticism that can be wielded is the practitioner can influence the test and these kinds of things. That's why I retest. That's why but it's really it's kind of a simple proving test, and it actually can be used. I've used it for, let's put it this way, I've had almost 20 years of empiricism to see this stuff work, and I've helped a lot of people through very simple tests.
Well, I will tell you, this is no kidding. Now, that was a test. I didn't even know he was going to do that, and I don't want to be called on the carpet by Italians who think I'm insulting Guido, but...
Oh, I'm sorry, I just know a guy.
No, I'm kidding. Don't be sorry. It's ludicrous anyway. But I'm just telling you that, and by the way, Paul is working with young people, children, who have been unsuccessful in other treatments, as well as older. This is not an old man's profession. This is humanity. And it goes back again millions of years, thousands of years into the Chinese and Asian community, which I've always admired their intellect and their history and their whole souls is something that's always attracted me to the Oriental lifestyle. Excuse me. But anyway, so we've done that, and then I was experiencing, as I say, I have what is called, there goes my mind, associated with acid reflux. And it's been bothering me, and it's partly diet, but Paul has toned me up in such a way that it is improving all the time if I just follow the rules that he sets out. So I'm speaking again, hopefully, to others who have some kind of malady that they have not been able to see any kind of improvement. And it's just a terrific option to just staying with one restaurant or staying with one doctor. It doesn't mean your doctor's not doing their job, but I do believe that there are additional ways in which we, and especially now, getting back to socialized medicine, getting back to these figures. You don't have to like them, but this is factual stuff, especially for you 65 like me and older people. I mean, if you're going to have to wait, if you're going to have to wait a long time, like England and Canada, and I've got a sister-in-law who lives over there, and she's had trouble being seen. So they can say that everything's wonderful over there. It isn't, as far as matching what the United States healthcare. Now, I'm not saying there aren't rooms for improvement. I'm not saying we don't have greed in the drug companies and that we don't have greed in some of the medical profession. It's with us everywhere. But again, imagine if you need a hip replacement, within 6 months, a resident of the United States, 90% of them were able to be seen. In England, 15%. So they got to wait over a year. Those of you with a bad hip or a bad knee, I mean, does that tell you something? Canada's 43, so we're more than double. Now, that's easy to just use as a figure. I'm talking to you. I'm talking to somebody out there that needs some kind of a knee or a hip. I had mine done because I'm concerned with just what the future brings for our healthcare system. And we're bringing in illegal immigrants and giving free health care, which again would take away from United States citizens being seen. The lunatics, here I go. The lunatics are running the asylum. I do not get it, folks. I don't know how we continue to vote the same way we do. Number of MRI scanners, a prime diagnostic tool for cancers or other serious illnesses. United States, per million, now that shows you it's still low, 71 versus England, 14, 18. I mean, the figures don't lie, and they're not done by the medical people of this country. They're done by, this came, by the way, from the Investors Business Daily, United Nations International Health Organization. Well, Paul, how can people get a hold of you? And I know you have 2 locations, one at the Pine Hills and one in Hanover. Who are you associated with there?
I actually am an independent contractor up in Hanover. Being new to the area and setting up at this age, I needed to get as much exposure as I could. And so I've worked with a great, energetic young guy up there, Jimmy Chung, who has Nutropy. And then down in Plymouth, I have my own business.
Hold on. What's Nutropy?
Sorry, Nutropy is a wellness center up there. It's massage therapists, myself, under one roof, and so there's some different services that you can get up there, whereas it's just me in my business.
His number is up there, his website. I'd love to hear from anyone. Now's the time to ask Paul a question. I don't know, Kenny, you answering the phone, or are you just drinking again? Is Kenny there? Kenny Bukes is, I think he's asleep at the wheel out there. I left. You left? Well, at least you showed up today. Anyway, as you know, our number is 508-830-3971. This is kind of a tough hour anyway. They're eating supper, and I think probably a lot of them. No
worries.
What else could you tell them about the future? What do you see? This is even more important. I don't want to make it political because that's not my intent. My intent is, as I said, the things we can do about health issues. What do you see happening just in your field, Paul? Do you see more people participating in alternative medicine, such as what you're basically dealing with?
Well, I will expound upon what you said before, because to answer your question, I have to do that. And so if you look at the fact of the matter is, the United States is a large country. We have 350 million approximate people. We cover a large geographic area.
Yep.
You're not going to get representation from two parties. You're just not going to. And so the bottom line is we're presented with these polar options, and the fact is there might be 100 different choices for us to make. So let's not, if we just toss the word socialized out and we toss these things out, there's a whole bunch of different models. In fact, I've sat down with some very intelligent people and talked about different medical models. Fact is, this country we're talking about money. If money wasn't an issue, intelligence would take a front seat.
Correct.
But when somebody says, "You're not gonna, I have power. You're not getting into my pockets." Guess who's going to win?
That's correct.
It's not going to be intelligence or reason in every case.
It's going to be the money.
It's going to be the money, and so this when I set out to do my thing, you said earlier, what do we do to change things?
Correct.
I realized I could change things one person at a time. And I know that sounds a little hokey, little cliche, but the bottom line is when I go out and I deal with one person and that person goes, wow, that just makes so much sense. I'm embarrassed for not thinking of that or saying, feeling that or thinking that before you said that. I've talked to groups all over. I've taught classes all over. And it's amazing. I get people coming up to me saying, wow. That's inherent. It just makes so much sense. Why are we forgetting that? Why are we getting so far away from that? Because we look for easy answers. We want to do whatever we want to do. Like I said, we sometimes don't want to face the emotional, the food, the underlying causes that get us into these troubles.
Correct.
And so think about it. Think about it from this standpoint. If you identify the causes of disease, you address those causes. If you utilize a natural system of medicine, you're cutting out, you're diminishing thousands of surgeries a year. You're diminishing millions of dollars of pharmaceuticals. I've had people sitting on pharmaceuticals that they have no business being on. Mm-hmm. It's illegal for me to take them off them.
Yep.
But boy, they have a physician that'll have 10, 12, 14 medications. And you go up to pharmacists and you say, what is the effect that these things are having on these people? Do you know? And the pharmacist knows a lot more than the MDs do.
Yes, they do.
And every time they should be saying the honest answer. I asked 4. All 4 of them said, I have no idea. How do you feel about that?
Yeah.
I don't feel very good about it. And so I set out to get people's bodies functioning again, and and that takes people have a hard time with this, but it's usually a very simple thing. When I say simple, I mean it might be not having sugar, or there might be some complicated, some things that are difficult for people, but simple for me to lay it out, right? So it's just say, look, if you do this, this is how you're going to feel. And I'm telling you, 9 times out of 10, the people that follow through, the people that were told they'd have to live with this medication the rest of their life, the people that were told that they'd have fibromyalgia forever, the people that were told that they'd have to have these things, nope, sorry, you got to live with that the rest of your life. It's just factually, it's just not true in most cases. In most cases, there are, of course, people that have, if you got MS or you got Parkinson's, you're advanced in a degenerative disease.
Correct.
I'm not curing that.
That's right.
But from a maintenance standpoint or from a symptom standpoint, tell you their quality of life's better when they're not a mental vegetable because they're on 14 medications and they can't think.
That's right.
And so I've become, just like you're very passionate about that. That stuff drives me crazy, and I got a ton to say about it. So I'm very impassioned about medicine from a political standpoint. Now, like I say, I refer to MDs. I'm not saying that it's one medicine versus another, but that's the problem. Because it's a business, it becomes politicized. It becomes, no, we got to keep this in-house. We got to do this. Bottom line is, I'll say this: it's right tool, right job. You figure out what works, and you do that. If you don't do that, you're just as guilty. I mean, the bottom line, I come out here from the Midwest, and I was stunned at how programmed people are in the Western medical model. This should be, I'm going to tell you something. There's something to be said for pragmatism. If what you're doing isn't working, do something different. And that's for anything. That's for in the political process. Correct. It's in medicine. If what you're doing isn't helping, then advocate for yourself or get an advocate, and whether it's changing doctors or whatever, be listened to and do something different. And that's the piece that's going to get you. That's how you're going to get yourself well. And that's where I feel like I need to, step up and say, look, it's time for people to open their eyes. And if you got to dig into your wallet, if you have to do things that are, I get tons of resistance, like, well, it's not covered by insurance. I said, well, you just drove in here in a Mercedes. Let's talk about that.
That's correct.
It's where your priorities, and if your priorities are stuck in, I want to drive this car, or I want to eat whatever I want to eat, yeah, maybe you're not ready for it. But I've helped people across the board, whether it's with diet, with acupuncture. I do a lot of work between the ears, because the bottom line, people think themselves into problems. They get themselves emotionally stuck. They'll be angry, frustrated, resentful, and then all of a sudden they get things unwinding, and they get all sorts of stress and tension disorders, and it turns into inflammatory disorders, and they get all sorts of problems. So it can be rooted out. And sometimes it's little by little. Sometimes people, they're a little bit more fast track, but it's right tool, right job.
That was great. Now, what I want to know is what makes people want to be healthy? Do you think? I mean, that's a generality, but it's a presumption. And I know that and other people have told me this, friends of mine in the medical profession, is if they're told that their life isn't what it's supposed to be or should have been, how do you get a person to give a hoot about their health?
Well, that's an excellent question. It's a question that we as practitioners on both sides of the fence, or all sides of the fence, ask ourselves. And of course, working from my side, it's not about being health doesn't come in a pill.
Correct.
And so people look for the easy way first. They don't want to make changes they don't want to make, and so they look for the easy way first. And then when they end up on my doorstep, it's usually because they don't have other options. They don't see other options. And sadly, there's the people that are the best candidates, the people that I've seen through the years. And I've seen many, many people through the years. The ones that I peg as like I know that person's getting healthy are the ones that are motivated, are the ones that say, tell me what to do. Yep, I'm ready. I want to make the change. I want to feel as good as I can feel. And it's not about, just get rid of that symptom for me. They don't come in and say, yeah, just get rid of my back pain. So I even ask a question on one of my forums saying, are you interested in feeling as good as you can feel? Because there is a program. I mean, from treatment plan standpoint, I'm setting up a program for that person. They say, Paul, look, I know I'm 30 pounds overweight. I'm depressed. I feel like I'm stuck in my marriage. I'm kind of a jerk to my kids. I'm angry when I leave work. I get lots of neck pain and headaches. I'm having some problems down below. Whatever. I get all these complaints. I treat the person, not the symptom. And that's the thing is I'm saying. So then I lay it out for them and say, look, this is why all this stuff is happening. And so I do the best I can to do that and line things up for them, and that is the way to practice medicine. Whether it doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on, that is the way to practice medicine. How can you do that in 6 minutes, 8 minutes? It takes a lot of time. It takes work. It takes repeated visits. And when I say repeated visits, that's where the phone's going to start going, oh, you like a chiropractor? You got to. There's different with PT, with chiropractic, with acupuncture. We're repatterning the system. So with some people, we have to do repeated visits. You want them to be together. You might see them 2 or 3 times a week for a few weeks. Are there people that take advantage of that? Absolutely. Let's toss them out of this. We're not going to have them as be part of the conversation right now. Let's focus on how the medicine is practiced correctly. And so from my standpoint, I have people that come in, I might see them 2, 3 times. My job is to get that person doing the right things for them, for themselves, and so I want to empower them. So don't get me wrong. There's people that I need to see over and over again. There's people I love seeing over and over again. You establish rapport, you get these relationships going, and sometimes it's hard to see somebody leave. But on the therapeutic end, you also want to see them get better. That's what makes your business grow. So. Go out and spread the word, but that's that's a huge part of a misunderstanding or a myth that is perpetuated when people we're used to just I wait till I'm sick, I go to the doctor, I don't feel good, what do I do? And then they say, well, we'll do this test, or here, take this, and then if it's bugging you in 2 weeks, give me a call, that kind of thing. Symptomatic medicine. And so people get trained to do that. So then all of a sudden when they have to work or they have to pay attention to their health every week, wait a minute, and so that's difficult for people. We are the sickest culture. We just are. We have more people who complain about health issues, who have more people who present with health issues than anywhere else. That's frightening. That's staggering. And it's so much of it is because our diet is one of the worst. We are sedentary as a nation for the most part.
Well, we have too much. See, no country has more than America has. Our poverty level, they would kill in most countries to have what we call poor. And yet we have more complaining. And one of the things I'm glad you touched on right away about what I started out, and of course I always stray back into my concerns because of my deep-seated belief that people must have the opportunity and use the opportunity to take care of their individual self and individual family. And what I see and why I'm so frightened of socialized medicine is what you pointed out. We are I think it's 340 million people now. We're too big, for one thing, to handle, I believe, any kind of social programs properly. But it's the easiest thing, and so people are allowing this country to become socialist. And if you look at what happened to the United Soviet Socialist Republic, and you look at what's happened in China, and you look, it does not bode well. And that is because I believe when people not only become dependent on government, but when they have to be dependent on government, that's when figures like what we're talking about occur. We're not perfect in any way. I'm not suggesting that our medical situation, our medical plans have been, that much superior, but they are. If you look factually, they are. And one of the reasons is because we've had individual choices. we've been able to not have to do what the government tells us to do. To me, it is frightening. It's not going to affect me unless I want to have a knee replacement when I'm 90 and maybe they turn me down.
You're not going to make 90.
No, I'm not going to make 90. No way. I don't want to, I don't think. But it is, to see these figures and to see now, Paul, here's something. This is, have you dealt with addictive people, addictions?
Oh, addiction? Absolutely.
Okay. All
absolutely.
Right. Now, did you happen to know? Now, I believe, honestly, and that's what I do most of the time on this show and certainly on the radio, and why so many people shut it off, and that is I rant about things that to me are just so obvious, and that is I believe today the lunatics are running the asylum. Now, we've had a war on cigarette smoking. Fine. We've lost huge amounts of government revenue because people have stopped smoking. Health-wise, fine. I'm not against that. But then they turn around and they've made marijuana legal. They predict $8.2 billion in revenue, Paul, by 2018. That's not coming from cancer patients, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I bring this up. Colorado, it hasn't even been 3 months. And it was reported now they've had several cases. They now have for sale brownies with the hash, whatever is in it, because it's legal. They've had kids now have their stomachs pumped. They're now churning up. This is not even 3 months into this so-called beneficial program. Now, what's the answer there, Paul? I mean, I guess there isn't one, but I mean...
The problem is, and I'm sorry to offer a counterpoint here, but
I want a counterpoint. That's what this is about.
This is the deal. Is that I've read stuff on both sides, to be forthright, that annoys me, and I've seen stuff that I have a very difficult time believing on both sides. And so what I'm going to say is this, and I'm going to say right now, I'm not a marijuana expert, but
well, I've seen you on the weed 2 or 3 times. No.
Let's not get
kidding. I'm kidding.
So
just
anyway,
kidding.
No, let from an herbal standpoint, from a natural medicine standpoint.
I believe in herbal
There's
tea.
people that are, you get this side that says marijuana can cure everything, and that annoys me. And you get this side that's saying that, oh my God, this is just, all these horrible things are happening from marijuana, and let's just again push the extremes off to the side and focus on some facts. And I wish I would have, if I knew this was going to be the case, I would have brought some facts about it. But what I do know is this. Marijuana has been used very successfully in the treatment of a number of different issues.
No question.
From the standpoint of should it be legal across the board, it's more of a libertarian viewpoint, of course. Hey, don't want the government telling me what to do. I do think that there are lines that need to be drawn at some point. Do we make heroin illegal? Do we make illegal? Do we make meth legal? Of course not. I just don't know. We're all going to disagree where that line's drawn. The thing I feel about marijuana is that, and I totally agree with people with this, I will say definitively, there's no arguing this, liquor, hard liquor, and cigarettes are definitively worse for your health than marijuana. And now there's people trying to scare you and say otherwise, and it's just complete BS. And so I'll say that again.
It's great at rock concerts.
There's liquor and cigarettes, which are illegal, and marijuana, which you were scared. They tried to scare the heck out of you when you're younger.
Well, that's their justification, Paul. But again, all I'm saying is, if you see that substances that are known to be addictive and are available to young people in their formative years, most, in my small experience in terms of teaching, I saw more problems later in years with alcohol from former people I knew that started at an early age.
Oh, that's absolutely
which
right.
is what Patrick Kennedy. I read what was in USA Today, and of course I know him and I admire him. And he went through it, and this is coming from his personal experience, where when those days of all those drug usage during the next generation and the tremendous damage that has been done.
When something's culturally acceptable,
correct.
You're watching these people imbibe.
My concern is not to make it legal for adults, but I mean, they had, and I don't know, I haven't read much about, you're supposed to be 21 to use marijuana in Colorado?
I believe so.
Is that it?
I'm not sure if it's 21 or not. Can our fact checkers check
yes,
that, please?
well, Kenny, he's got all he can do to just turn the camera on out there, but I will. His computer's down anyway. Well, anyway, the reason I tie this in, though, see, with this laissez-faire attitude that concerns me, where I'm not saying that there isn't merit either. I'm flexible in terms people have, you're always going to have abusers of anything that's mind altering. I mean, look what's happened in the music world, the entertainment world. Now they usually supplement it with something, but right now we've got an addiction to cell phones. We've got kids that are on a cell phone all day long.
People are addicted to coffee. They're addicted to
so
sugar.
Adults,
they're addicted to sex.
I mean, it's just part of. I believe, of course, it's part of a culture today that has too much time, too much money, and too much permissiveness.
But you just said something very important in that. It's
always say something important.
No, that's why the look of surprise on my face.
That's the look
no, I'm actually shocked. But no, I'm going to lose it here if you keep it. No, you bring up an important point in that it's looking at the underlying roots of something. So when you say the addiction, it's how you use something.
Yes.
Now, I have alcohol, and I think this is an argument in the fore pile of keeping things legal, in the sense of, if we deal with why people are using things improperly, why does somebody become an alcoholic?
Yeah.
Why does somebody smoke weed to the point of being useless?
Mm-hmm.
Why does somebody smoke so many cigarettes they end up with lung cancer, or as I said, sugar? They eat so much sugar they end up with diabetes or inflammatory disease. Coffee is actually you can drink too much coffee.
That's correct.
And so there's all these problems, and you look at the underlying components. Why do people do that? Why do they get in trouble with that? And I think that's key. That's a key component. Is that as society, we're kind of afraid. It's kind of taboo to look at those issues. Let's make this the problem. Let's make the substance the problem, when it's really us looking within and saying, all right, we got to take a long look at ourselves and what am I about? What do I want my life to be about? Do I want my life to? Do I want to drink all the time and so I can be angry and take out all my problems on my family and my dog, or do I want to face what's going on with me? And that's
well, and to me, to what has compounded it is the once again money and the press, and it's just like I'll refer to this these big stories now. About child abuse in pro football, and about Ray Rice hitting his wife, and there's always underlying, almost always, and there was drinking involved. Mm-hmm. It's certainly in the Ray Rice thing, or maybe something else. But the newspapers and the media, people forget, they make billions and billions of dollars from the companies who also. And they're supplying them with a lot of money.
There's the money
thing.
And
again. What I don't like is now, for instance, I don't like Biden particularly, but we've got this. On the one hand, we've got real drug problems, and we have in professional sports for a long time, documented. Basketball players with guns in their locker. I mean, all of these things that have been going on, and that's not even a touch. The ones that become public are probably 20% of what's actually going on, and it's known. You talk to people in the know in the business, and It's pathetic.
Well, we've glorified thuggery.
Or glorified
you know,
thuggery because they're so-called, but it's the owner's greed. They don't want to lose the player. But I mean, now instead of really addressing that, they're addressing whether the Washington Redskins should be allowed to use the name Redskin.
Yeah.
And I just started to say, well, it's not. It's to avoid dealing with really the
underlying
source.
issue. Yeah.
I mean, now as I said, I don't care for Biden, but I mean now there's a Jewish group upset because in his speech he talked about Shylocks loaning. You know, that came from a Shakespearean play. It happened to be a Jewish moneylender. Come off it, will you please? Come off it. If this world is ready to blow up, we've got all sorts of financial, moral, other issues, and people are worrying about a word today more than they are about anything else, and it's just, again, mind-boggling.
Again, you bring up an interesting point in the sense that.
I always bring up an interesting point.
But if we take the extremes, if you lop off the extremes, and the rest of us can talk about this.
The ones that are paying for it, the middle.
Well, but this is the thing. This is what they want. They want us over here arguing about these kinds of things, and because each side is waiting for the other side to screw up. And boy, I tell you, for every story you got about somebody doing something like, oh, come on, the other side's going, yeah, but what about this? Oh, come on, you know. And so it's that's why I say get rid of the extremes. The rest of us can talk it out. And the idea is then we're going to come up with something intelligible.
Well, they don't want that either. But
no, of course not, and because they would be bounced out of office. Because the thing is you have government greed, and that's what you were talking about earlier. That's the part where I don't trust the socialist. I don't like using that word because there's so many things to define. But let's say, do I trust the government to make decisions with all that money? Here's money, government. You spend it for us. They've proven they can't do it. They're a waste.
That's correct.
But do I think that CEOs are going to be, do the right thing and watch out for the rest of us? No. So again, it's the two things that we've been given: privatize, socialize. Throw both of them out. Let's do something intelligent.
Yeah, but we don't get the power to do it.
Of course not. But the only way we do it is by not voting for either party. You bounce them all out, and you send people to Washington that think like this and aren't ruled by corporate money. And the money has to be taken out of the equation. Like you said in your initial quote, you do it because it's right.
That's right.
You figure out what to do because it's right, and you put people there that are passionate about changing the country. That's the only way this changes. Otherwise, it's all rhetoric.
But they can't get elected, Paul. See, this is my bottom line frustration. Now, the movie industry, that's another whole deal. It is now, to me, it has always been, in probably 80% of what's performed is negative to the young people in our culture. But what do I know? I mean, it's part of our culture. We're on a road that I don't believe can be turned back. But Paul, I want to thank you
very much,
for joining me. And again, Kenny, show that, if you will, his website. I hope you will avail yourself. This is a good man, not only very brilliant in terms of treatment, but he's a good man, and I hope some of you will avail yourself of his skills. I have, and I'm telling you, it meant a lot to me. Thank you very much for listening. Sorry we don't seem to get any calls, but I know I hear from people that see the show, and we will, by the way, be reshown Monday at 11 p.m., Tuesday at 9 a.m., Wednesday at 1 p.m., and Thursday at 6 p.m. That's every week after every show. God bless and thank you very much. Have a wonderful weekend, and God bless Plymouth, where it all happened, I think. Were you on that ship? I might have been. And in a previous life, I think I was.
My relatives were Norwegians. They were here 1,000 years before that.
Oh, Leaf. Or was it Life? Life.